Hello everyone and welcome back to another Escape from Tarkov video. Today we're going to be having a look at the RB-PKPM key. I'll be showing you guys where it is, as well as opening it 9 times and calculating the value of the loot from opening it 9 times. I did this as well with the RB-VO key, so if you haven't watched that video yet, I'll leave the link in the description. Otherwise, I'll just recommend the video for you at the end of this video. But before we get to that, I just want to thank you guys for the support so far. We recently had 50 subscribers, only 50 is, but it's definitely a milestone for the channel and I really appreciate all the support, guys. Okay, so on the first attempted opening of the door, I actually ran all the way to school, went down, and then just got domed by a scav out of nowhere, which was a surprise to say the least. On the second raid, I actually did manage to get down there. I opened up the room, got a few things, nothing too crazy. I did check all around the floor as well as on top of the desk and underneath the jackets. I also checked the bookshelf on every raid that I did, as well as the fallen over bookshelf. For the purposes of trying to keep the video as accurate as possible, I'm not going to include any of the loot that I find inside the filing cabinets because they do have very random spawns. Overall, on the first opening I got an MP7, an MP9, a teapot, a gold chain and a Makarov. After I extracted, I transferred all the loot and then went in for the second time. And on the second time, I found a Willis wallet, a gold chain, a M1A, a Makarov, and a bayonet. I checked all over the room again, but this was the only loot that I ended up finding. After I got all the loot, I switched on the power for the D2 extract and started heading out. I ran into some raiders and I peeked the same corner twice, which is something you definitely do not want to be doing with these guys, and I almost died as a result. But I took care of them eventually and headed towards extract and got out. Once I got out, I transferred all the loot and went back in for the third time, and on this occasion I found a Mark 17, an MP7 and 2 gold chains. Now I checked all the other spawns as well, all around the bookshelves and around the floor underneath the jackets and the binders, but there was nothing there on this occasion either. After I got all the loot, I switched on the power, ran into some raiders again, took care of them and just headed straight towards the extract. After I extracted and transferred all the loot again, I went in back for the fourth time, and just like with the previous video, this was the first time that I actually had gotten a very good item. On this occasion I got a Mark 17 again, but I also found a keycard holder. I checked inside the keycard holder, but I wasn't lucky enough to actually get a keycard inside of it already. Either way, the keycard holder itself was worth around 1.7 million rubles on the flea. After I switched on the power, I dealt with some scavs and a few AI PMCs and then just again went straight for extract. Once I had gotten out and transferred the loot, I went in for the fifth time, and on this occasion I found a horse figurine, a MP9, a AKS, a Santa figurine and a roller watch. After I switched on the power, I again had to deal with a bunch of scavs and raiders, but I did eventually get to extract. After transferring all the loot over again, I went in for the sixth time, and turns out this time was actually the most valuable run that I had. I ended up finding a chainlet, an impact grenade, a gold chain, a den figurine, an injector case and a Bitcoin. After I switched on the power, needless to say, I just went straight to extract. After I transferred all the items, I went in for the seventh time. And in contrast to the previous opening, I actually got the worst loot that I've ever gotten from this room. I checked everywhere, but I ended up only getting a red flare and an MP9. Now again, as far as accuracy is concerned, I did not shoot off the flare and look at the loot that I got inside it because we're judging the room and not what kind of loot we get from a flare. I am planning on getting at least 10 flares and then shooting them off and seeing what kind of loot we can get from 10 flares in a later video. But at this point I decided just to include all the loot that was actually inside the marked room on the floor and around the other areas. After I extracted and transferred the MP9 and the red flare, I went in for the 8th time and again I found a red flare, a RD-704 and an AVT-40. After I switched on the power, I didn't have to deal with any of the scavs or the raiders, so I just extracted. When I got out, I transferred all the loot and went back in for the 9th and final time, and on this occasion I found a gold chain, a chainlet, another AVT-40, another RD-704 and a VSK-94. When I switched on the power, I had to deal with a few scavs as well as a few raiders again, but I did make it to extract, and once I got to extract I transferred the loot and the whole process of seeing the value of the actual room started. Now, just like in the previous video, I'm not going to include any of the prices that these items sell for on the flea market because flea market prices tend to vary a lot throughout the wipe. So just like before, I started with all the items outside of the items case that I can sell to mechanic. I sold them to him and looked at the total value, which came to 271,353 rubles. I did the same with the loot inside of the items case and got to a total of 307,643 rubles. After that, I went to therapist and sold her all of the other items and got to a total of 1,780,140. I couldn't sell the impact grenade to mechanic or therapist obviously, so I ended up selling it to Prapor for 6,950 rubles. After I added up all of the different amounts we got from the traders, I ended up with a total value of 2,366,086 rubles. Now, if we consider the current price on the PvP flea market, where the key actually goes for 1.9 million rubles, and also considering the fact that I only opened it 9 times, I think it would be fair to say that this key is definitely profitable. On the PvE side of things, it's a completely different story. On the PvE market right now, the key is selling for anywhere between 4 million to 7 million rubles, and I ended up paying 4.5 million rubles. So for me, it means I ended up losing 2.1 million rubles. So in my opinion, this key is not very profitable on the PvE game mode, but on PvP it possibly is. But given the location of the actual room, which is down in Bunker, which is a high traffic area in PvP mode, there is a high likelihood that you will not get out with all of the loot that you find inside the room or even make it that far. It's also worth noting that I extracted through D2 every time, and on PvP mode this is a rat infested area. So if you didn't watch the previous video, you might be wondering why I only opened it 9 times again. And just as before, I'll say it's because I only want to keep 1 use left on the key because I'm planning on using these keys for a barter for the Dorm's marked room key. But if you have any other questions, feel free to let me know in the comments. Or, if you disagree with my assessment of this room. Hopefully this gives you a better idea of what's in the room and what you can expect to find. And if it helped you, be sure to leave a like and maybe hit me up with a subscribe because I do plan on doing even more of these videos. I've already done RB-VO as I mentioned before, and the next one will be RB-PK. So thank you for watching everyone, I do appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next one.